But first, what an international laughingstock Australia has become over energy. Yes, the world is suffering, the whole world, from power sanctions imposed on Russian gas. But of course, most of Europe, well, they've got nuclear reactors to fall back on. Not little old Australia. Oh no, we've been too frightened to even make power from our vast uranium deposits legal. There's a law against it being used for that purpose. And of course, we signed away the rights to our gas on the east coast of Australia to multinationals, lock, stock and barrel. For 22 million Aussies in the east, we have to ask them for our gas back, please sir. But they're making a mozza from our gas in countries far and wide. Why would they budge? And to add to Australia's brain-dead approach to energy, we've been demonising coal and gas for 15 long years, which has intimidated politicians and the banks from keeping coal-fired power generators up to date so we can have secure baseload energy. Could we have butchered this sector any worse than we already have? I doubt it. And now consumers and the economy will have to contend with ridiculous power bills and third world blackouts. That's what they are. There is a level 3 warning tonight for New South Wales, for Queensland, hang on, Tasmania and also South Australia. Queenslanders, well, they've been told by their transmission operator Powerlink, listen to this, to consider the number of rooms being heated by air conditioners, turn off computers, TVs and other household appliances in standby mode, completely turn them off and turn off pool pumps and second fridges as well. And in New South Wales, well, the Northern Beaches, well, it had blackouts last night. Ironically, this is the new teal territory of New South Wales, where, of course, many of the locals voted for unreliable renewables and no more coal or nasty gas. How's that working for you people in the dark last night? But listen to how the New South Wales Environment Minister, Matt Keane, classified last night's blackouts.
The high voltage power lines that supply electricity to those suburbs is down. So it has nothing to do with supply of electricity, everything to do with the transmission and network infrastructure.
Hang on, he's only partly right. Partly. The outage was due to an overhead line fault. But there's the other problem governments like his have created. We have a failing, inferior transmission system right across the country, which not only can't be relied upon, but can't cope with additional power from renewable sources either, from your solar panels. So when we live in a third world power nation, as we do now, we've got to start admitting that, we just need to accept blackouts, I guess. Accept them in winter and, of course, soon in summer as well. And so this is how we need to live. Just turn things off.
People should just be conscious that where they can reduce their use of electricity, that's a good thing for them. It's going to lower their power bills and it's also going to take a bit of pressure off the system.
There you have it. That's our new mission. All of us. Forget about vaccinations. Now we've got to switch off our power. Ordered, of course, by the very same dunderheads who've got us into this outrageous position in the first place. See, Keane is a renewable extremist, a chief critic of baseload power from coal and gas. Well, he was until reality hit him this month. So maybe from now on, to cover the sorry backsides of the likes of Matt Keane, we here should just switch the lights off here as well. That's better. Look at that. Some might even think that's a better look from me than you'll see when the lights are on. How does that look? Maybe the boss could just supply us with one of these torches and we could broadcast like this until the crisis is over in 5 or 10 years' time. Seriously, back on, please. We should not have to put up with this in a supposed first world country like Australia, in a country flush with resources that make power. It is embarrassing. And they have the gall to say they didn't think this would happen.
We've got enough reserve capacity at the moment, but obviously there's, there is not a lot of slack in the system, but the market operator who runs the system, they're directing on plant to make sure that we don't have any outages at this stage.
It's a fail for every politician at all state levels and at a federal level who's had anything to do with the energy portfolio. That's what it is. Most of us here with a sceptical eye on a purely renewable world, well, we've warned our viewers of blackouts and price rises for years. It was coming. We didn't even think it would come this early. So, what's the federal energy minister doing about it?
Nobody should turn off any heating or anything which they are using or is necessary.
How reassuring. Don't turn off your heaters. Don't be cold. That's okay for him to say that. Has he looked at his power bill? I bet he hasn't. Everyone else who's slightly better off probably doesn't look at their power bill either. But the majority of middle-class Australians do. The sad reality is there will be elderly pensioners, there will be families there tonight and all through winter who will switch off their heaters and risk their health because of power price hardship. It's a fact. Those who will be impacted the most, Australians on the edge financially who can't pay their electricity or gas bills at those higher levels, even with a wholesale cap. Meanwhile, those in wealthy suburbs, many of whom think they can change the weather by ending CO2 emissions, which is scientifically false, and of course voted for Greens or Teal MPs, well, they'll cope with higher bills. They want renewables. They want coal and gas to fail. As for the lack of regulation on multinationals, here's where the government needs to act. They control our gas. So what's the Albanese government waiting for? This crisis will last all winter and it'll resurface in summer. You can bet on it. So they need to act now and create a gas trigger for 2023 or change the law on minimum domestic supply based on a national security crisis. I would have thought that's good enough excuse. They need to do something yesterday and protect Australian citizens before the mess we're in starts to claim lives.